Welcome to today's edition of AI Playbook, where basically the goal is to more or less understand how the technology in terms of artificial intelligence, how it all works together. So I'm pretty much excited to be with you on today's edition. And pretty much we're actually going to be playing around our intelligence and looking around all the possible intelligence that we have. My name is Noah Latoi, and it is a pleasure to have a conversation with you on this one. All right, so you can join AI Playbook, you can join our community, you can join the WhatsApp group. Also, we have a Discord channel. You can also join us on the email portal as well so that you can be notified every time there is a new update. So aside just meeting on a weekly basis, I also still release some helpful tip during the week, which can also be helpful for you as you grow in the technology domain. So pretty much if you are very eager to learn more about technology and learn the actual foundation knowledge on how technology work together. This is a forum that you should belong to. So let's dive into what we have for today. So when we talk about the definition or defining intelligence, is something that is very tricky, because intelligence means several things to several people. And when we talk about intelligence, what comes to our mind? What comes to our mind is our ability to do a lot of things. But when it comes to intelligence as well, there are other species as well who also exhibit some level of intelligence. And how do we make sense out of this intelligence? That is what this conversation is for today. And just to take things further, this is mainly, let me see. Okay, I thought I had. All right. Okay, so pretty much today we'll be looking at a few things, and I want to ask us this question. And the question is, you know, what do we mean when we say a person, animal, or thing is intelligent? I just want you to take some moment to pretty much understand what I'm trying to say here. When you hear the term somebody is intelligent, what comes to your mind? I believe that before the end of this conversation, I'm able to show you series of intelligence on how we can leverage on some of these things to achieve even greater results. So, yeah, intelligence means a lot to so many people, like I mentioned. All right, but let's see some couple of things. So, when we talk about intelligence, and it can change over time, it means that your definition of intelligence today may be different tomorrow, or somebody who seemed to be intelligent to you today may seem to be dumb tomorrow. So, or the person may just seem to be average. So, and when you look at the technology space as well, there were things that make sense to us when in the early 2000, and right now those things have nothing to do with us anymore because it's either they are outdated or they are not smarter like they used to be, or they are just not usable in this scenario that we find ourselves. So when we look at intelligence, intelligence oftentimes is relative and it can come with a lot of definitions. And that's why sometimes I find it difficult to look down on anybody because if someone isn't intelligent yesterday, doesn't mean the person will not be intelligent tomorrow. Or that somebody is intelligent yesterday does not mean the person will be intelligent tomorrow. What really matter is the ability for people to adapt with new phases of information. And we are going to be looking at a couple of these things. So therefore, for some people, we've like not done real justice to ourselves. Sometimes we feel, okay, I may not be intelligent enough just because I am unable to obtain a certain thing, or I'm unable to get a certain result, I'm unable to get a certain grade. Oh, just because of that. Some people, most of us think that we are not intelligent. But in real sense, that's not the case, right? And we're going to be looking at a couple of these things as we move along the way. So if you've been thinking or you've been struggling to understand whether you're intelligent or not, just stick with me to the end of this conversation. I may be able to prove to you that there's actually more things that you need to consider while talking about intelligence. Now, intelligence about almost a decade ago, in 1932, right? Intelligence was once defined in New English Dictionary as what I have on the screen right now. The exercise of understanding, intellectual power, acquired knowledge, quickness of intellect. As at 1932, that is what intelligence means when you look at the dictionary definition. So we're going to be looking at what has changed and how we look at what we call intelligence in these days, like how we relate to intelligence in these days. And if dictionary meanings like this could change, it then means that we as a human, we as people can actually change if we choose to. The bottom line is, are we actually willing to make the few changes to reflect those things in our life? Because when you talk about true intelligence, it comes with lots of combination of attributes. Intelligence doesn't just mean, oh, because you could spell 10 words at a time, then boom, you are intelligent. No. Intelligence these days goes beyond knowledge. Intelligence goes beyond just your intellect, it goes beyond just your understanding. And that's why sometimes you would find yourself reading and reading and reading, or even go through university settings or any educational settings. And along the way, you will see you can hardly find a trace of growth, right? In fact, that's really part of the issues that we are having. How come that you go through several layers of education, and at the end of the day, you had the knowledge, some even get finish with credits, some even finish with distinctions, some finish with very good grade, but at the end of the day, there is nothing to write all about. It just really means that intelligence now is far beyond the knowledge, is far beyond your ability to respond to questions, is far beyond your ability to understand. Now, the question you're to ask me right now is, so what is true intelligence? But before then, we need to really understand some layers and series of intelligence so that we can even see that intelligence is not just unique to we human. It's not unique to me. It's not unique to you and I. It's unique to several other species, which we actually need to look at as well. But before we go into other species, let's look at definitions, the definition of artificial intelligence, or intelligence in the year 1995. Remember, the one I told you happened in the year 1932. Few years later, we had another definition. And look at what it means here. Intelligence is the ability to reason and to profit by experience. An individual's level of intelligence is determined by the complex of interactions between their heredity and environment. Now, look at this definition about what we had. Here is about more of the intellect. Here's more of the intellect, knowledge, right? But here it's talking about more of our environment. It's talking more about experience, right? And that's why sometimes when you grab any technical skill, right, learning the foundations of any of those technical skill is not enough. It's not enough to do anything, right? And that's what we even advise people at Instinct Hub, that you learn the basic, and some of these things is not enough to get a job, right? It's not enough to call yourself whatever name you want to choose. It goes beyond that. Knowledge oftentimes just give you the layer for you to really understand how that scope work. If there's any context you want to get out of this new definition, is experience and environment. Experience and environment has a lot to do with your intellect, right? Your ability to listen and to profit by your experience. So, in other words, whatever knowledge that you have that is not profitable is not an intelligent thing that you can refer to. And this is not trying to talk down on any of us. This is really trying to trigger us to take things to other level. Remember, definition of intelligence is very complex and it could just be understood or described based on the circumstance that we find ourselves. Like I mentioned earlier, for those who are just joining, when we talk about intelligence, oftentimes someone may be intelligent few years ago and today the person just seem ordinary. Someone who seemed ordinary some years ago can be extremely intelligent right now. All that really matter is how are you able to compound your experiences together to make a huge sense out of what you are doing. How are you able to compound everything that you know, all of the informations that you're picking along the way to make sense out of whatever you're trying to do? And what happens when you're able to really leverage on some of these experiences? What you would notice is efficiency. So when you find other people doing things in hours, in minutes, yours may be in seconds. Yours, you may not even have to do anything just because of your wealth of knowledge and your ability to harness those things together. So when we talk about true intelligence, it is in your real ability to make sense out of your experience, right? Don't forget, an ability to make sense out of your experience. In your current endeavor right now, how are you making sense out of your experience? You need to really think these things through. The truth is that when you look at things or when you try to fix things together, sometimes you won't get the real results until you critically think about some of these things and you iron them out in a different dimension. So don't forget, how are you harnessing your responsibilities together, your experiences together to make profit? Profit by experience. Now, profit in this sense means meaningful outcomes, right? Meaningful outcomes from your experience. But let's move forward. In the 90s, one of the greatest inventor of IQ test, right? His own definition is a bit different and it picked on judgment, common sense, initiative, and adaptability as essential ingredients of intelligence. Now, this is another way to look at intelligence. And like I said, the essence of this conversation right now is that I really want you to have a different perception on how you see intelligence, on how you perceive intelligence. And I am of the opinion that anyone can be intelligent if you choose to put all of these elements I'm mentioning together. So take for instance, when we say definition of intelligence is the way your judgment, how you judge or how you conclude on situations, your common sense, common sense, how you apply common sense in certain situations without being told. You just come up with some conversations within in your head and come up with some results and pan out those things. How do you use common sense, and initiative and adaptability? How do you use your initiative to solve some minor or simple or complex problem? And how do you adapt? Are you the type of person that oftentimes when you face some certain challenges, you grumble and you give up, or you complain and you just let things go? If you find yourself in that kind of situation, it means that you're denying yourself a level of intelligence that can actually be more useful to you. right? If you find yourself in a situation that you're not comfortable, what are your judgments? What are the common sense that you imply? And what are the initiative that you craft out as a result of that movement? These things are the essential ingredients to say whether something is intelligent or not. And the question I have for you right now is that, you know, picking of judgments or deciding on things, to be honest, necessarily doesn't need you to go to the most expensive school. Adapting to some certain situations at your work or with the colleague, it doesn't need anything huge. And when you look at the adaptability as well, being adaptable in a certain situation doesn't even really require so much. And I feel this is the reason why some of our academics or educational platform are getting things wrongly. Because sometimes some of this common sense, the ability to apply some of those technicality to solve real problems are not there. In other words, if you really want to enjoy true intelligence, you need to put to use your common sense, your adaptability, and your ability to create new initiative. Your employer does not need to tell you specifically something before you do them. Yes, in some cases, you need to get buy-in, you need to get approvals and all of that. But sometimes we need to come up with some of this initiative by ourselves. That is what shows a high level of intelligence, because it shows that in certain ways you've done some research, you've done some understanding, and you're able to make sense out of it. Now let's move forward. I think I will just quickly move on to, okay, let us look at the animal intelligence. Like I mentioned earlier, we, the higher animal, we are not just the intelligent species. There are other animals that are extremely intelligent. Animals who are truly intelligent, they have the ability to communicate, they plan, and they come up with some terms, and they come up with initiative as well. They can reason, and also they are quick in certain ways. Now, let us take a look at some of these animals and let's see how they work. Example is bee. We can actually learn some lessons from bees because they are very, very, very brilliant as well. They have a level of intellect that we human can actually even learn from. For some of us, all we know about bee is the honey that we get to either take our tea or mix our bread, whatever we use the honey for. For some of us, that's the end of what we know about the bees. But bees does something very, very unique as well. When you look at bees, they communicate, and their communication is also very precise. And when you look at their characteristic as well, they work in a society. So take for instance, whenever the bee goes on a pollination and it is time for it to come back, the bee is going to come back also wiggling his tail towards the direction it was coming from, just to signal the other bees that in case you want to go and do the same thing that I did, this is the direction that you expected to go. Now, that gives other bees who are about to embark on that same journey the understanding of where to go and how to go on the journey. Is that not extremely brilliant? It is. And that is how some of this animal works. So sometimes, and what does that mean? Or in fact, let's even try to break down what it means for a bee to signal other bees the destination in which it came from, just so they too can go grab whatever they needed from that same spot. It shows teamwork, and it shows retentiveness. It shows ability to keep track of the progress, to keep track of the process. It also shows accountability, right? It shows accountability, and it also shows support. It is just very, very painful that sometimes in our community, some people dislike to help others to achieve success because they feel like, no, I am not going to show you how I achieve my own success because by the time you get there, you may get to finish everything and I won't have anything again. That's some of the mindset that we have. But for the bees, they don't. They give precise location, precise direction on where other bees should go, and because of their wiggling tail, other bees could tell where to go at every point in time. And this is what we're talking about when we talk about true intelligence. With true intelligence, you actually need to have some certain characteristics. You have to be responsible and keep track of every aspect of your steps. You won't just do things and just let it go. Even if it's the first time you're doing that very thing, are you keeping track of what you're doing? Remember, we said that one of the attributes of true intelligence is our ability to make profit out of our experience. In other words, if you've done something before and you don't learn how to optimize that process and you struggle to do that thing again, you are not making profit out of your experience. In other words, in every attempt to do something, you should actually experience some level of ease, some level of proficiency, and some level of high end results. Let's look at another example. Another example is the spider. Now, spider have over 30,000 different species, right? Each with its own specialty. But let's take a look at the water spider. For example, they live in the pond and they build airfield diving bell out of silk. And that's not all. When they are done building this thing, they will go and hide. They will hide, and the reason for building this is to set trap for their prey. And whenever they get their prey, they catch the prey and they feed from that prey. They do this they coordinate this process in such a way that they know the right time to come for the peak. They know they can guess when the prey will come, and when the prey like shrink or some insects come around, they're able to capture and feed out of them. These are strategies. These are things we need to actually find out how we can incorporate into our own life. Because at the end of the day, when we talk intelligence, we're talking about being smart, doing things smartly, communicating smartly, getting smart results, and your ability to make sense out of your experience. I'm repeating this same word again and again because I know so well that everyone listening to me right now has gained a wealth of experience in one way or the other. For the past couple of months, weeks, years, you've gone through some series of trainings, you've gone through some series of project execution and the likes. The bottom line is, what profits can you make from those experiences that you have? And that's what this conversation is all about. Let's take a look at another animal that also have some level of intelligence. Like I mentioned, many creatures have several abilities, and one of that is octopus. Octopus has been studied by researchers, and researchers has found a very tremendous way that octopus actually behave. Take for instance, with octopus right now, if you train one octopus to pick a specific color, if you put that one octopus into the group of other octopus, and that one octopus pick the color that it was trained to pick, every other octopus will pick that color. Every other octopus will learn from that which has been trained. In other words, how do we embrace training? How do we embrace successes from other people? For some of us, what we get to do when we see other people succeeding or learning or badging new degree or getting new certification, we just feel bad. instead of us to learn, see what we can learn from them in anything. And that really starts from how we perceive things. So my question is that whatever you have, the number of those cell, the number of the cell that you're currently actively using is what you can say or what you can call as the level of intelligence. And that's now asking me one question right now, or that is even posing one question at me right now. How many of my cells am I using currently now? For some of us, we are not even stretching ourselves enough. We give up almost immediately when the solution seems tedious. There is a part in our brain that allows us to rigorously answer some difficult questions. And that's where adaptability comes in. When we talk about the term adaptability, that is where it comes in. The ability to adapt, the ability to come up with certain navigations in some difficult situation is also part of our intelligence. All right, let's look at this quote. Brains are highly expensive in this regard. Human brain metabolism accounts for as much as 22% of total body requirements. In chimpanzees, this figure drop to 9%, and in insects is lower still. In machine, in machine that do not move, apart from cooling fan and indicating light, not far short of 100% of its energy requirements are used for information processing. What does this mean? It means that, all of our reasoning as human, right? All of our reasoning as human, the total requirements of the energy or the power that we need is about 22% of what we have. On other species, is about 9%, which is very low. But guess what? On machines, on computers, it's literally 100%. By the time you minus the fan that is cooling your laptop, all the lights, your keyboard lights, your screen lights, your indicator, whatever indicator that you have, you minus those small percentage. The remaining power, the remaining processing power goes to how the computer process information. In other words, machine actually works differently when it comes to thinking, when it comes to processing information. But as for human, we actually consume a lot too, 22%. And you can tell why we are quite intelligent or we are quite functional than other animals. If the likes of chimpanzee is 9%, and other insects are even way lower. But there's also a report that shows that there's a report that shows that oftentimes the some of these what's it called that we have the processing power of human or the neural network that makes everything work in the human is on the skull. Our brain, everything is there. But guess what? On other species, on other animals, you could have about 50% on their head, and you have about 50% in their nervous system. So all of these differences make things a bit different between human and other species. But that doesn't limit our ability to even do things far more. And that should even now settle the argument between machine and human. Like I explained, we human, we use about 22% of the power of metabolic power to do whatever we want to do, process information and all of that. Machine, on the other hand, let's just say machine use almost 99%. So you cannot compare that kind of arrangement, that kind of strength in order to compute or bring out information. So pretty much, let me wrap things up today. My point today is simple. For us to be able to exercise true intelligence, we need to understand that it is in the pool of our experience. It is in the pool of our ability to adapt. It is in the pool of our ability to make good judgment. It is in our ability to have good initiative. So, in other words, um, intelligence these days is not all about academics anymore. Intelligence this day is not all about having A1. Intelligence these days encompasses several other things. And the more we realize that, the more we can shift our focus. And when you then shift your focus, it makes things quite easier. It makes you really learn where to really focus your strengths rather than just memorizing things. Why not just try out implementing things? Rather than just listening to things, why not just try to recreate your own? Rather than trying uh, to just look at things. In fact, this is why I encourage students not to just read, look, try it out yourself. It is in your ability to trying things out that will serve as a revelation to seeing things that naturally you're not supposed to see. So, in summary, try as much as you can to put things into motion, put your experience into use, try out things differently. Understand that you're extremely intelligent the day that you put all of those things that I mentioned together. And that's how we wrap it up for today. So please don't forget, join us, join our community, join our WhatsApp group, join us at every point in time. And of course, every Thursday is when we get to meet to talk about how you can be better with the technology. Thank you for joining today's session. And of course, I'll see you in the next one.